Welcome to Parkville, originally known as Parkville, and then the words joined together to become Parkville. Prior to 1861, Parkville was known for much of its market gardens, which were basically horses, cows, pigs, hay, and after 1861, housing estates commenced. So we have quite a bit of elegant buildings or terraces in the area. A most significant part of Parkville is the Melbourne University, but we won't be exploring that area today. That requires a whole video in itself. And very much of Parkville is also included Royal Park, which is a massive amount of park area, which also includes the Melbourne Zoo. And there used to be an old horse-drawn tram that used to make its way all the way to the zoo.
So Jojo, as I take it, we have park and we have ville. So therefore we have parks and a few houses scattered amongst them.
Yeah, actually it's sort of a unique suburb because the residential area is quite small and most of it is all parkland, Peter.
And I understand there aren't really too much amenity in the form of shops.
No, the commercial area pretty much all is gone and non-existent. There's only one hotel and a post office. Otherwise, everyone in this residential area would have to go elsewhere to do all their shopping.
And we're going to check out this hotel later on this morning.
We'll be having lunch there sometime during the day. So we're going to head up north and we're going to look at an area that was subdivided in 1868 to include a lot more terrace houses. By the late 1860s, 1870s, the area was very affluent. So come along with us as we explore Parkville and show you some of the beautiful terrace houses that are around today.
Hello, Peter here. Now I know my fans have been hanging out for my guest appearance. Behind me we have a lovely example of public spending on an electrical substation. Very ornate for its day. You can actually tell by the building it has a bit of a 30s, 40s look, and I can probably tell that by the brickwork that they have applied there. Okay, nice to see some of our taxes at work. A nice little example of Gothic revival architecture built around 1886 for a James Ferguson. Now one thing I have noted is that we have those, I'll call them dormer windows, but on the far right we still have one of the original ones that had 4 little panels and they were all in stained glass. Noted stained glass, not lead light. And then the other ones have been converted to just regular sash-hung windows. And we've lost the stained glass over the period, but there are some nice little examples of the stained glass that remain.
Did you know that James Ferguson was a stained glass merchant?
Couldn't give a stuff really. No, that's very nice, okay, you could. Maybe he got it on the cheap, Joe. And I are in front of a property called Old Reekie. Once a private residence built around 1910, but what is distinctive about this property are the posts of the gate leading into the property. lovely wrought iron gate we have here, but they are marble columns. And the marble columns are actually the castle pieces of a chessboard. So the remainder of the fence is of the pawn pieces of the chessboard as well. And they are too in marble. Now, if you take a glimpse through the gate and along the path, you will see a lovely little pergola. The pergola, again, is supported by nice little concrete columns. And for me, it has a very Edna Walling-esque look about it. So Edna, you would be very proud of the garden. A little bit shabby, but at the same time structured.
We are standing at the memorial monument to Robert O'Hara Burke and William John Wills, two of our famous explorers who opened up our country for us.
Otherwise known, Joe, as Burke and Will.
They made their way up to the Gulf of Carpentaria. They started their journey on August 1060 and eventually made it back to Cooper's Creek, where unfortunately they missed their party that was supposed to join them. Having left some rations covered up, which they missed, unfortunately they perished there.
So it wasn't quite the rendezvous that they were anticipating?
No, but one of the survivors, King, actually made it and was to return to Melbourne to tell the story.
I think he was discovered.
Well, yes, he was. He was found there by the Aboriginals.
Yeah, he didn't quite stroll back into Melbourne.
No, Pete, a long way to come back to Melbourne.
That's right.
But they departed here with 22 horses, 25 camels and 18 other people in their party. And behind the planning of Parkville is this gentleman behind me, George Hawkins Ievers, an Irishman who helped plan suburb of Parkville.
Behind me is something quite rare. It's one of Melbourne's iron houses, and it was built, or should I say assembled, in 1862 for a park ranger called Mr. Meeker. Now, if you can envisage what it may have looked like in those days, these trees wouldn't have been here, open space, it would have been pretty hot. Now, those iron houses, we have some typical examples of these. We have seen already one in Fitzroy, and there is another one in South Melbourne, so pretty rare, but very historic. Take note, please. Thank you. To head down one of these right-of-ways. It's a bluestone little laneway, and in the times when these places were built, we had the nightman come along and he would empty out the pans, I suppose, from the little outhouses, the little toilets that were abutting the laneway. So the affluent actually had their effluent.
So we're at Norton's pub and we're here for lunch. So we've got a roast beef and a Yorkshire pudding.
It's a refreshing pale ale, and is otherwise known as the Venom Refreshing Ale.
We are standing near the corner of Story Street, but behind me is the remaining wall of the markets. The market wall was built in 1888. The market ran from 1855 to 1939. The horse's head, which you actually can see from here, was actually removed from the gate, which was at the entrance of the market. The horse's head was removed and years later was found and relocated on the corner of these walls.
We have some clues here of times gone by. So we're walking down this bluestone alleyway, a little house, otherwise called an outhouse, and you will see that made some repairs to the earlier structure. There's a little bit of an infill around here, as you can see, a nice little lintel, and there must have been a hatch. So I reckon the nightman came down this particular alleyway, opened his hatch, took the smelly stuff out, poured it into a bigger smelly pot, and closed the hatch as he went on his way. As we will go on our way without the excrement. This rather simple structure behind me was built initially as a stable. You can see how it's been modified over the years to make it a more livable abode. Sidney Nolan, a famous Australian artist who actually painted the Ned Kelly series amongst many other things, actually did a lot of his works in this building here. There we go, didn't know that one. I'd just like to point out that I've identified some very unique Victorian architecture. Normally you don't see Victorian architecture where you actually, the land slopes down and you enter from the lower end of the land. Normally you would walk upstairs to a Victorian home, but not only that, the entrance to these places are to the left-hand side of the main house. So normally you would have a centre corridor or something like that, but very, very different and very interesting.
we found something very unusual called stone coins. I'm sure most of you have no idea what a stone coin is. They were stones that were put in laneways to prevent carts from hitting and knocking over the walls of homes and fences. So you can actually see along here, you'll notice a couple of them on my right hand side.
Pretty simple really, a block of bluestone that they gave a name to.
Yes.
So here I am with Bubby, and Jojo's taking the footage of our finishing spiel of Parkville. We actually saw some lovely architecture, very, very nice part of Melbourne. Some of the grandeur still remains, a lot of the grandeur actually remains. Melbourne Uni and Royal Melbourne Hospital have taken over a lot of the other land, but you can still see a nice reflection of bygone era.
Okay, we've come to the end of our walk. We're back at the Norton's Hotel, which was built in 1873, as you can see behind me. But we've enjoyed this walk thanks to
Me and Ruby.
Thanks to Parkville Heritage Walks, which you can actually download on an app and actually walk and check out all the historic buildings which are heritage listed and protected.
Summer.
So it's a very elegant and affluent area of Melbourne, and hopefully we will be back to do the Royal Park area. There's also the zoo to visit, and even perhaps Melbourne University. We look forward to seeing you on our next adventure, guys. Bye for now.
Bye.